welcome back to another episode of The Click with your hosts Dominique,
Jess,
Caitlin J,
and Caitlin B, where we discuss various topics in politics, economics, and business. Today we'll be discussing the importance of organizational behavior in the workplace,
motivation theories,
perception and decision making,
and linking individuals within the workplace. Firstly, we'll be looking at the importance of organizational behavior within the workplace. Does anyone know what organizational behavior means off the top of your head?
Isn't it behavior within the workplace?
It's close. It's actually the study of how different individuals, groups, and structures behave in the workplace. It looks at how these behaviors influence or impact organizational performance and overall outcomes. So it's like when a certain individual, or how a certain individual, how they behave in a leadership role, or how they communicate interpersonally, so with other people. But it also looks at how different social groups, how they communicate within the group, and how they solve in-group problems. So it is important for management to understand how certain individuals will behave in certain circumstances so that they can use it to their advantage to increase or better the outcome of the overall organization. For example, in a retail business, an employee who is more extroverted and upbeat is more likely to get along with customers and their co-workers. If you went to a shop, Mr. Price or Pink Play Clothing, would you go and speak to an employee who is happy, who is extroverted, who looks like they are just having a good day, they have a positive outlook on life? Or would you speak to well, not necessarily an introvert, but a person who is more timid, or they look angry or upset?
The more upbeat.
more upbeat.
Yeah.
When I worked retail, people would approach me and I know that I didn't look happy or more upbeat or extroverted, but they would still come up to me and ask me things.
Did you get promoted?
Now I actually left
Why is that?
because the environment itself was just very toxic and everybody was really mean, and it wasn't a nice place to be.
That is why organizational behavior is so important within the workplace, because if you have a positive outlook on things and if you have a positive behavior, organizational outcomes will improve, because customers are more likely to gravitate towards good vibes, and that just will improve overall organizational performance.
Yeah. So there are actually theories invented, as Dom mentioned, that influences people's behaviors and influences the organizational behavior. If I had to ask you guys a question, if you think of the workplace now, do you think people are more driven by salaries, wages, or personal growth and achievement?
I think it depends, because I feel like there's people who are driven towards just the money. They need the money for certain reasons. But then I also think that there's people who have a passion for their job, and that obviously helps with their personal growth, and it brings them happiness working.
Yes, I love that perspective actually. If we look at, I'm sure you guys are familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? So obviously it has different levels, okay? And the first level is physiological, so that's your salary, the things you need to survive off,
Your
basically.
basic needs.
Yes. A employee might be motivated by the steady income and the job security, but once those needs are met, then they can move to the next level, which is belonging, self-esteem, all the way up to self-actualization. So if those needs aren't met, then you can't achieve self-actualization, because I'm not happy in my job, I'm not receiving the salary that I want. So how can that increase my self-esteem? Because my job performance is going to become slow now. So if we look at Herzberg's two-factor theory, there are obviously motivator factors and there are hygiene factors. So hygiene factors like your salary, wages, motivator factors like your achievement, all of those things. So if, let's say for example, hygiene factors are high and motivator factors are low, do you think that there will be job satisfaction, or do you think there needs to be a balance in
I do think that there needs to be a balance between the two, because if the hygiene factors are high, then the motivation factors should also be high.
Yes,
You get what I'm saying?
yes.
Yeah.
I agree. Even going back to nurses, when managers take the time to meet those needs of salary and wages and working conditions, that leads to a positive job attitude and positive job behaviors. Even with McLennan's theory, people that achieve high in affiliation or power or achievement, when their needs are met, then that produces a positive job outcome, a positive job attitude. So linking these theories to job attitudes is that managers need to assess, okay, if I have employees, are their needs being met? Are their working conditions good? Because at the end of the day, your employees make your business, in my opinion. Without employees, you don't really have a business, if you get what I mean. They run your business in a way. I feel like they run your business. They're the ones that make or contribute to the success, mainly contribute to the success of the business. So if we take a look at motivation, motivation can be positive and negative as well. Negative motivation, if you're unhappy, that motivates you to steal, that motivates you to cheat, that motivates you to produce falsified records and all of those things. So if I'm linking it to job attitudes and job behavior, as I said, managers need to assess the needs, managers need to meet those needs in order, obviously realistic needs. They need to assess it, they need to say, okay, this is what I need to do, this is what I need to provide. And once employees feel like they're valued, feel like their needs have been met, then motivation creeps in. Then motivation leads to the success of the business, leads to positive job attitude.
So perception is the interpretation and organization of sensory information that forms a meaningful experience of the world. So there are three elements involved in perception, namely selective attention, interpretation, and retention. So with regards to selective attention, the workers will focus on the stimuli that aligns with their interests and their expectations. When it comes to interpretation, the meaning of that is based on your past experiences, your cultural beliefs, as well as your other beliefs. And retention has got to do with your memory and how the information you've retained over the years is stored and recalled. And that strengthens the biases within the workplace. So there are 5 perceptual biases that are known as the confirmation bias, attribution error, stereotyping, the Warren's effect, and the halo effect. And the halo effect,
isn't the halo effect like where a person's single positive trait influences another person's overall outlook of them in a positive way?
exactly.
Well, from my experiences when working is that, like male and female, I feel, is that a male will see a female, vice versa. Like there's one positive like trait about you, and that's my perception of you. And you could be stealing, you could be working horribly, but because I have the perception of you, it's like I'll overlook that, or I'll overlook everything else. Because as you said, it also it's biased.
On the topic of the halo effect, you have the Warren's effect, which is the opposite of the halo effect, and that is when one negative trait overshadows all the positive traits. And like if you take an example, it will be like where one mistake can change somebody's their whole outlook of you as a person because of one mistake that you made.
Like,
I feel like that's what I mean when they say first impressions are everything.
Yes. If you want to look at perception and decision making in a scenario, you can look at it in the sense that the 2 employees up for promotion and the manager has to choose between those 2 employees. The first candidate will be very extroverted and out there, and the second one would be very introverted. With regards to the halo effect, the manager would prefer the first candidate over the second candidate because the fact that the candidate is extroverted is like the one quality that outshines everything, and that is what the manager will base their perception of that person on.
Yeah.
But when it comes to candidate B, who has better, let's say, analytical skills, the fact that candidate A is more extroverted than that candidate gets overlooked because candidate A is extroverted and liked by many people. So this decision is like based on selective attention, and it's visible that their personal traits are what the promotion decision is going to be based on. With regards to this perceptual biases, that brings a lot of consequences for people in the workplace, such as the employees who are overlooked, they will become demotivated. So there will also be conflict because the employees that are overlooked will think that there's favoritism between the manager and the selected candidate.
I feel like it's no more about your qualifications anymore. I feel like it's about your networking. It's about who you know in the business. You can have a pool full of candidates. But it's like, if I know you in the business, I'm going to get you first preference.
Errors in perception do distort the fit between the person and their job, because there's going to be lower motivation and less engagement because of the mismatching the person to the job.
Quick question for you guys. Who of you are more introverted? Okay. Do you guys think you would thrive in an environment as a waitress, a radio host, or maybe even a public speaker?
No.
Linking individuals within the workplace, we look at two aspects. There's the person job fit and person organization fit. Person job fit looks at the alignment between the individual and the organization, while focusing specifically on personality, skills, and the job requirements. When we look at person organization fit, we see that it's the similar values, beliefs, models, and principles between both the organization and the individual. If we look at someone who is detail-orientated, organized, and loves structure, if they are put in a compliance role, for instance, they will become confident, they will engage more, and perform better. They will feel connected to this role because their abilities align with their job requirements. They feel connected to this role. If we put this exact same person and we switch it around and put them in a chaotic sales role, for instance, they become disengaged and they become disconnected with their role. When we feel connected and when people feel connected to their job requirements and their organization's values and beliefs, we perform well. If you take, for instance, if you look at, there's a module that we have in the new block, and it's a specific module that you guys find interesting. If you find things interesting, you find the motivation to put the effort in, and in the end, you perform better. Taking this concept and putting it into an organization, employees will then take initiative within the organization, they support their teammates, and they also solve problems more creatively. When there's a mismatch in the organization, people tend to feel frustrated, they feel disengaged, they feel disconnected from that role. They might doubt their abilities, they might lose interest in their job, which then leads to burnout, stress, and maybe even turnover. When people's work matters and they feel like they belong, they will stay in an organization, they will grow, maybe start as an intern, go all the way up to top manager, maybe even CEO of the business, and this allows them to fully and wholeheartedly contribute to the organization. So linking individuals within the workplace is not just a hiring strategy, it's a base and a foundation for a healthy, high-performing workplace. When people's strengths and skills align with these specific job requirements, they feel competent. If an employee within the organization with problem-solving skills that enjoys doing complex tasks is given complex tasks daily, they feel more motivated to work towards completing these tasks because it's something that they enjoy. It's their passion. And then if we look at motivation within the person, this looks at their intrinsic motivation and their passion to solve these complex problems and tasks, which boosts the internal drive. When there's no relation between a person and an organization, employees within the organization might shine a negative light on it. If the employee receives feedback from a manager, for instance, they might take that as criticism instead of support. This then eats at their motivation, which weakens the link between the organization and the job.
How can a manager give feedback to the employee and avoid them feeling like it's criticism?
That's why I'm saying that's why the alignment is so important, because if there's no connection between the two, they feel like they aren't using their abilities to their best potential. They aren't showing the employer what they can do. And because of that, they obviously have to do things a different way that they're not used to, that they aren't able to apply their skills. If this manager and if the organization doesn't see that, they see this as they're not putting in effort, they aren't putting in the work that they should be doing, you know what I mean? And then obviously the manager sees this, and then when they give them the feedback, the employee might feel like it's criticism and start doubting their abilities because of the disconnect. There's no relation between the two, the skills and the organization. You get it?
Thank you.
A pleasure. Okay. Employees feel linked within their organizations when their job fits, their values align, and their perceptions are positive, which overall shows the impact of how they thrive, how well they thrive in an organization when their skills and their abilities, their values are linked to the job and the organization.
And I hope that everyone learned something about organizational behavior and how it shapes, how that behavior shapes motivation and attitudes in the workplace, and perception, how different people perceive things, and how certain behaviors in certain individuals shape how they fit in the organization or impact how they fit into organizations. Tune in again next week for another episode of The Click.